Today, we're diving into a pretty radical idea. What if the key to breaking through the biggest walls in your life isn't about pushing harder, but about finding the right sound? We're going to connect an ancient story to a very modern idea and see if sound can really be a weapon for breakthrough.
So let's just start with this question, because it's a big one. It kind of goes against everything we're taught, right? We think progress only comes from grinding it out, from struggling. But what if there's a totally different way? What if breakthrough starts with a frequency?
Okay, here's the absolute core of it all. We usually think of music and sound as self-expression, right? A way to show how we feel. But the source material we're looking at today argues for a completely different purpose: sound as a tool for alignment.
So what does that even mean? Well, let's break it down. On one side, you've got expression. The source calls this scattered, individual, almost like decoration or background noise. But on the other side, you have alignment. Now, this is sound with a mission. It's an ordered signal designed to get everyone on the same page, moving towards one goal. And this simple sentence, this is a game changer. In the ancient world, in the patterns the source is looking at, sound wasn't just for fun. It wasn't just artistic flair. It had a job to do. It was a signal.
A signal for what exactly? Well, according to the text, it did three really specific things. First, it coordinated movement. Second, it aligned people around a single purpose. And third, and this is huge, it was to be remembered by God. It was a way to get heaven's attention.
And this isn't just an idea pulled out of thin air. The source points right back to ancient scripture to back this up. And the key insight here is pretty wild. The trumpets weren't really for scaring the enemy. They were a signal pointed up, a call for divine help.
All right, so with that groundwork laid, let's look at the biggest example from the source material. It's a famous story, an ancient pattern that all kicks off with the marching sound.
You know the story of Jericho, right? Well, the source boils it down to this super simple but really powerful sequence. And here's the crucial part. Check out the order. The breakthrough, the wall falling down, that wasn't step one. The sound came first. That sound got everyone unified, the people moved together as one, and then the wall came down.
And here's the receipt, the proof in the pudding, right from the text. The people shouted, the priests blew the trumpets. It was a unified sound with one clear intention. And that massive physical barrier just collapsed.
That's a wild story for sure. But what in the world does a city wall from thousands of years ago have to do with us, with the stuff you're dealing with right now?
This is where it really hits home. The source suggests that we all have walls. They look a little different these days. They're what the source calls modern strongholds.
And these aren't just abstract ideas. We're talking about real stuff, like those mental strongholds, the negative thought patterns you just can't seem to break, or emotional wounds from the past that just won't heal. That feeling of being stuck in your finances, in your career, or maybe the biggest wall of all, that fear that just paralyzes you from doing the thing you know you're supposed to do.
And just like with the ancient pattern, the source provides a framework for these modern walls too. It suggests that if the walls aren't physical, then the weapons you use against them can't be physical either. You need a spiritual pattern to deal with a spiritual stronghold.
Okay, so we've got the ancient pattern, we've identified our modern walls. What's the next logical step? Well, you apply that pattern to today. And that brings us to the modern expression of this whole idea.
The source actually points to a specific event as an example, something called Reggae For The King. And it's defined not as a concert, but as a gathering of alignment. That wording is really specific, right? The goal isn't just entertainment. It's about deliberately recreating that ancient pattern, getting a group of people to move as one.
And how do you do that? The unity is built on these three pillars. One single rhythm that everyone can lock into. One single focus for everyone's attention. And one king, which establishes who they're all directing their praise and worship towards. That's the what of the event. So if that was the what, this slide is the how. And this is where it gets really interesting. How the music itself is structured. The drums aren't just a beat. They're there to establish a march. The bass isn't just a low note. It's carrying the spiritual weight of the thing. The voices aren't just singing. They're releasing praise. And when you put it all together, that unity forms what the source calls an army.
And when all of those pieces come together, the rhythm, the focus, the sound, the unity, the source says it very simply. Things begin to break. A breaking point is reached. And this visualizes that break perfectly. Think about it. The before state is all those walls we talked about. Confusion, fear, feeling stuck. The after state, what happens when those walls fall, is clarity,
courage and a brand new sense of direction. It's the shift from being trapped to being free.
All right, so let's bring it all home. This gets us to the absolute key revelation, what the Source presents as the actual formula for breakthrough.
But first, and this is super important to understand, this isn't about some magic song or a specific style of music. The Source is crystal clear that the music by itself is not where the power is. Okay, here it is. The equation, the formula the Source says unlocks everything. It's a three-part recipe. You need aligned people, plus a unified sound, plus an active obedience to the pattern. That's the combination that it claims leads to breakthrough.
And that leads us to the final, and maybe the most critical, distinction of this whole idea. This isn't about putting on a show. It's not about creating a cool emotional experience. It's about rediscovering and stepping into a spiritual pattern, one that's believed to be repeatable and to produce a consistent result.
So we're going to end right back where we started with a question for you. Think about that big wall you're facing, the one that feels impossible. Based on everything we've just talked about, is it possible your breakthrough isn't waiting for you to strive more, but for you to find a new kind of alignment and a totally different kind of sound?